Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Diana Elliott, and I'm a senior fellow at the Urban Institute. Today, with DIAG USA, we have a very special program for you entitled Advancing US and German Apprenticeship Best Practices. We are honored today to have the First Lady of Germany, Mrs. Budenbender, joining us. Our program features opening remarks from Stefan Schneider, German Consul General, German Consulate of Los Angeles, followed by a presentation from Miriam Farnbauer of DIAG USA, highlighting key features and differences between the German and US systems. Then, Mrs. Budenbender will lead a fireside chat with apprentices Timo Oswald and Jordan Pounds to learn more about their experiences as a German and American apprentice in mechatronics. We will conclude with a panel conversation with Mrs. Budenbender, Natalie Pelugii, Secretary of the California Labor and Workforce Development Agency, Dr. Kress, Senior Research Officer, Federal Institute of Vocational Education and Training of VIBB of Germany, and Joshua Johnson, Director, Jobs for the Future. During this panel, we will seek to elevate best practices across both the German and American apprenticeship systems. Finally, we will open the conversation up for you to ask questions of the panel. But before we begin, a few housekeeping remarks. So first of all, the event is being recorded and the recording will be posted online afterward. And we encourage you to watch it and to share it with others. You can hide captions or adjust settings with the live transcript button. Speaker biographies and slides are posted online at urban.org. On this webinar, all participants are muted. As questions arise, you can type your questions and comments into the Q&A box at any time. And then we ask you to please complete the survey at the end of the event. And if you have any thoughts or ideas during the event, we encourage you to tweet and to use the hashtag #LiveAtUrban. And with that, I now introduce you all to Stefan Schneider, who will make opening remarks.
Sehr verehrte Frau Budenbender, guten Abend, dear Miriam Farnbauer, dear apprentices, dear Diana Elliott, dear panelists, welcome, willkommen. Please allow me to say a few words on the current situation in Europe. It is a time of anxiety and uncertainty. May the torch of peace and freedom enlighten all. Our hearts are with the Ukrainian people. I would like to thank the First Lady of the Federal Republic of Germany, for Elke Budenbender, for her kindness and generosity to lead the discussion. We are really deeply honored. Herzlichen Dank. I wholeheartedly thank Miriam Farnbauer, the soul of the Skills Initiative in the United States, together with DIAG USA, for this great initiative and for her work. And I thank the Urban Institute wholeheartedly. I would like to share with all of you a story. When I was still at the Diplomats Academy in Germany, I was invited together with my classmates, so to speak, to an event in our embassy at an European partner country. It was a meeting at the embassy with the local business community devoted to the German dual education system. To my great surprise, the representatives of various companies from the host country were not enthusiastic about the German vocational training system. The meeting ended in friendly words without consequences. Today, the situation has changed. The German dual education system enjoys increasing interest all over the world. It stands for efficiency, for its successful approach to teach the necessary professional skills on the one hand, and to teach a curriculum of general knowledge beyond the basic skills. This model, based on a long tradition, has been adapted in several countries abroad to the benefit of all involved. Young people and their employers, the companies. Hiring somebody who underwent the dual vocational training, a company gets added value. I encourage all of you to keep going on that dual path. I have now the great pleasure to introduce Miriam Farnbauer. So, if I may say so, and mind of the Skills Initiative in the USA. Restlessly, she has been working for years to match companies and partners for creating a modern workforce, well prepared for a successful professional future. It is a pleasure, Miriam, to cooperate with you. And we're also cooperating in the future, and I'm very much looking forward to it. Thank you very much. Herzlichen Dank, Frau Büdenbender. Thank you very much, all panelists and all participants. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Consul General Schneider, for those wonderful welcoming remarks. Good day, everyone, and good evening to Germany. It is really an honor to have you all on. Thank you so much, Mrs. Büdenbender, and thank you so much, Labor Secretary Palugi, for joining our panel today. Since we have a big audience today here in the US and Germany, and probably not everyone is fully immersed in the topic of apprenticeship, we thought we would give you a short overview about the German and apprenticeship models, look at a few facts and figures, and also point out a few differences that both countries have when it comes to implementation of apprenticeship programs. So then I would start with the first slide, please. Thank you. So let's take a look at the numbers. The total working age population in the US is almost 4 times higher than in Germany, as you can see here. And for any one of you who wants to look closer into the statistics, we have the sources listed below. So when you then look at the total number of apprentices in 2020, in Germany, we had 1.3 million, and in the US, there were 336,000. You can see that apprentices are a relatively small share of the working age population in the US. The total number of apprenticeship completers in Germany were 465,000 in the year 2020 and around 82,000 in the US. Now, the pandemic, unfortunately, had an impact on both countries when it comes to apprenticeship programs. There was a decline of 9.4% in Germany and 12% in the US, but it is anticipated that apprenticeship programs pick up again as the economy is picking up. And as Stefan Schneider pointed out earlier, it is a program that benefits everyone, and so many people are involved and eager to advance an apprenticeship. The percentage of women is another interesting number to look at. We have 34% participation in Germany and 9.2% in the US. And both countries work through various efforts, work on improving the gender equity in apprenticeship programs. Next slide, please. Let's look at the different pathways to entry. In Germany, around 55% of graduates from general education, which is similar to high school graduates in the US, enter apprenticeship programs. And the average age for an apprentice to start a program is between 15 and 16 years old. In the US, it's a very small share of youth apprentices who participate in programs. And according to the best available data, you can see that Wisconsin is a state with strong youth apprenticeship participation, but here only less than 5% participate. in apprenticeship programs when it comes to youth. Now, not every state has records on youth apprenticeship participation, but Wisconsin has been active for decades. So this is why we have chosen the state. And then another thing to consider is every state might define youth apprenticeship differently. What is youth apprenticeship? Are we talking 16 to 18-year-olds or 16 to 20-year-olds? So this is all, those are all things that have to be considered. 62% of high school graduates immediately went to to a college in the US. So here you see the big difference between Germany and the US. And the typical US apprentice has an average age of 28 years old. I think that is quite an interesting difference. When it comes to the application process, in Germany, we have a more centralized approach. Apprentices choose or apply based on interest and location. So when an apprentice says, for example, I'm going to be a software developer, it is very likely that he has multiple employers and companies in his region who offer this one program, and then he or she can choose on where to apply. In the US, we have a less centralized approach. Individual employers and programs list openings, and apprenticeship has a lower awareness than in Germany. And those programs are more individual. I just brought the example of the software developer in Germany. There's one software development program, and then you have various companies where you can go to and have this training at. In the US, different employers might offer various programs when it comes to software development. Next slide, please. So every apprenticeship is designed for employer needs. What would we do without the employer? The employer is the crucial part of any apprenticeship program. But in each country, the approaches vary there also. So in Germany, we have a very formalized and standardized approach. We always have two coordinated learning venues. We have the company that offers the hands-on training, and then we have the vocational school. In German, it's called the Berufsschule, that offers the classroom instruction and the theory. And both learning venues have curricula that are aligned and coordinated and make sure that what is being taught in class will be applied in practice later on at the company, which is the secret sauce of apprenticeship. So in 2020, Germany had 324 occupational programs. And the model really gains its strength through the collaboration of different stakeholders and their respective roles. We have the educational institutions involved, government and social partners, and then business and industry, and the chambers of commerce and trade really serve as a regulatory institution that ensure that standards are met, and also play a crucial role for as the third-party assessment to make sure that the skills and qualifications are met at the end of an apprenticeship training. So apprentices undergo a midterm and final exam during their apprenticeship program. US is more flexible in design and approach. Programs are designed for specific employer needs. And in 2020, we had over 25,000 registered apprenticeship programs. And those go from common to niche occupations. So I brought the example of the software development earlier, and that is exactly what I was referring to, that multiple employers can have different software development training programs. The customized approaches, the approaches are customized when it comes to sequencing classroom training, on-the-job learning, pay and credentials. And it is really, in the end, up to the employer to assess the standards and the qualifications. Since we have so many individual approaches, this model often requires specialized expertise to navigate the system. Often an employer might be very interested in doing an apprenticeship program, but then the question is where to start. And here's where intermediaries, experts, and US Department of Labor staff come in and can offer great support. So we're at the end of the presentation, and now it is my great honor to introduce the First Lady of the Federal Republic of Germany, Mrs. Büdenbender. Thank you so much. We're very honored to have you here. And our two amazing apprentices, Jordan Pounds and Timo Oswald. We are very excited to hear about your stories. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Hi. Yeah. Hello. Thank you a lot, dear Mrs. Palucci, dear Mr. Schneider, dear Dr. Kress, dear Mr. Johnson, dear Mrs. Farnbauer, dear Mrs. Elliott, dear Jordan, and dear Timo. Hello. I thank you very much for your invitation to this event. I'm sure you, what Mr. Schneider said, you heard we have now a war ongoing in Europe, and it's really devastating, and our thoughts and our feelings with the people from Ukraine. Let me say this before I started with my very short speech. I truly appreciate that we today look at the current status of apprenticeship systems in both our countries, Germany and the US, and see what we can learn from each other. I highly value vocational training as a career path for young people and have tried to promote it in the past 5 years, in which my husband has been the federal president of Germany. In Germany, we have such a diverse educational system which caters for all different needs, interests, and talents, and I would like to encourage young people to take advantage of it and find the best and most suitable career path for themselves. A career path that corresponds to their individual strength and interest, and that does not only follow the parents' or society's expectations. I believe that every young person has the right to live a self-determined and fulfilled life and should be able to take his or her individual choices. Education can be a key to it. Throughout the past 5 years, I have enjoyed meeting to so many inspiring people who have shared their stories, ideas, and visions with me. So I'm really looking forward to now being able to talk to 2 people who have decided to take on a vocational training. I'm very interested in your reasons for this decision and your experiences. So Jordan, hello and very welcome. You are a trainee in mechatronics, and can you describe a typical week in your apprenticeship program?
Yes, it's very exciting to meet you. Thank you for once again coming out and obviously giving us the opportunity to speak with you, speak on the apprenticeships that we are currently training in. And a typical work week for me looks like training Monday, Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays, and I go to school on Wednesdays.
Okay.
Yeah, currently I'm doing training in our machine shop, and I'm learning how to use our Amada grinders, and I'm helping to produce spare parts for our presses throughout our plant, which is pretty nice. And then for schooling wise, currently learning physics, mechanics, electrical machines, and I'm taking a writing class, which is really helpful, I do think, when it comes to just producing out reports, and also I feel like it helps with speaking in these types of environments.
That's really great. You know, it's very, even from our point of view, it's very unusual that a young lady, a young woman, take this job, being a trainee in mechatronics. What was the reason why you have been able to join this apprenticeship, and what did your parents or your family or friends think of it?
So I decided to do an apprenticeship instead of going to school because I very much like staying at home. So that was kind of one of the advantages. I like the idea of being able to come out of this program with 4 years of experience and kind of the hands-on side of engineering, and not having to sit in a classroom all the time to learn about engineering and then being expected to go out and get a job in that same field. I felt like this is a better way of getting my foot in the door in order to be an engineer later on. And my friends and family, they were all very supportive after I basically told them what I was doing. A lot of them never really know exactly what it is at first. They're just like, oh, okay, that's cool. And they just all very support me. They see that I'm doing well. I feel like I'm still doing very good considering it's almost been 2 years since I started. So they've all been very supportive.
Oh, it's really great. So you have both sides of your learning, the practical and the theoretical side. I mean, I did myself an apprenticeship when I was 16 years old in a company, and I also worship this, that I can do something with my brain and my hand, and that was really something that that was something that was very important for me, for my life and for my ongoing learning. Still now, I'm a learning person. Thank you, Jordan. And Timo, can you describe why you picked this apprenticeship instead of going to university or go to school?
So for me, it was also important to gain practical experience and to do some work with my hands. And besides that, I think it's a well mix of hands-on learning and theory. If one studies at the university after he made an apprenticeship, yeah.
Yeah, great. And Timo, how do you get this apprenticeship? How do you inform yourself about the possibilities you have in picking up an apprenticeship? Do you really knew from the beginning that you want to become a mechatronic?
So for me, it was a lot of my family, because a lot of people in my family are in this working area of engineering, mechatronics or mechanics. And yeah, I think it was a lot of school things, because you made a lot of things in school, making different online tests, talking with people. And yeah, but I think it was also from the beginning a really clear thing that I'm going into engineering, because it's always the thing that was my profession.
Okay, thanks a lot. And Jordan, how do you get the information about the apprenticeship program in your city?
Yes, so I went to school in Fort Mill, South Carolina, and in my county, I had a mentor who was also a part of the work-based learning coordinating team that they had in my county, and she spoke with me about the opportunity my freshman year of high school, and we went and toured I believe 2 companies. It was Bosch, Rexroth, and Groninger. And I just kind of got to see their facility. I got to see how their apprenticeships basically work, and got to speak with a few apprentices. And I think after that, I decided that this is what I'm going to do. And by the end of my high school career, I had picked a company, I had gone through the orientation, and here I am now.
Yeah, it fits.
Yes.
So was it important to have role models, seeing some women also going in this kind of career, being an engineer, being mechatronic? Was it important to you?
Well, I'll have to say not really, because when I went to go tour the companies, I didn't really see any other women in those environments. It was, I very much like to do my own thing. I don't really have to see anyone else doing it. It's just engineering has always been a thing that I enjoyed. I've always been in the PLC classes, the civil engineering classes, all the way from elementary school up until I graduated high school. It was just something that I wanted to do. And once I saw it was something I was interested in, I was ready to go.
Great.
Yes.
Thanks a Timo, I would like to ask you, is there, did you have role models? As you said, in your family, there have been a lot of people who are in the engineering business. And did you have friends or so, also female friends who did, wanted to do the same like you do?
So I have a lot of friends that do exactly the same like me, or something similar like electronics or mechanics. And female friends, to be honest, I have nearly no one, but I know some people, some females in my school that are really taking a similar path like engineering or something. And I need to say it's really their thing and they will be great in that.
Perhaps in some years we see some more women in this kind of job than this kind of business. And Timo, tell me, what are the most important skills you have learned so far?
For me, it's a really important skill. I learned that quickly being part of a team, because every 6 to 12 weeks, I'm going to a new department, and there it's really much easier if you are part of the team, if you can ask everybody anything. And yeah, and another skill is trying new things out or facing technical problems. So the people in the departments always show me how to try things out the best way, or how to face the problem in a structured way.
Great. Jordan, the same question to you. What are the most important skills you have learned so far?
So far, I think the most important skill that I've learned since starting here at Bloom has been to definitely take notes. It doesn't matter what it's on. If it's something that you're unsure of and you had to ask once, write it down, because you're probably going to be met with the same problem later on. Whether it comes to machining, it comes to being to a meeting on time, taking notes so that you remember what's going on in your daily life. It will definitely help you no matter what it is.
Yeah, okay. So it structures your kind of working and your kind of learning, the apprenticeship. Oh, that's great. And so now you are also, we call it Berufsschule. Miriam talked about the Berufsschule. It's a kind of vocational training school. I worshipped it a lot because I had a lot of male and female schoolmates, and in a way we grew up together because we have been 16 when we joined the school and the company. And what are your feelings of your schoolmates? Are they also very important to you? I think you share 4 years together with them. That's a long time.
Yes, that is correct. So far, all of my schoolmates have also been my coworkers. So I pretty much see them day in, day out. Say that I see them more than I see my own sister sometimes. I think in the 2 years that I've been going to school, I think I've had 4 semesters. I have been the only girl in my class. And this semester, crazy, right?
Yeah.
This is my first semester, and there's one other girl in my electrical machines class. So that's pretty nice. Otherwise, it's just my coworkers.
Okay, I think that's the way it is also in Germany. We have not a lot of female apprentices in the mechatronic business or engineer business. It's the same at the university. What I like to ask is, are you especially proud of something you did in your company or for your company?
I am very proud of these virtual chats that I get to do. I've actually done 2 more prior to this one, just being able to talk about my experience as an apprentice here at Bloom, and getting to, I guess, share my point of view, which is really nice. And I feel like I'm doing a pretty good job at explaining what we do here and how our apprenticeship program works at Bloom USA.
Oh, that's great. So you are kind of ambassador for apprenticeship.
Yeah, you could say that, yes.
Yeah, it's great. It's great. Timo, is there something you are especially proud of what you did in your company? Perhaps a special kind of work or idea you shared with your colleagues?
Yeah, I participated in a competition. It's called World Skills. And there my teammate and I started at a German Skills where the best mechatronic technicians of Germany take part and build a mechatronic system. The first place goes to the World Championship in Shanghai and the second place to the European Championship in St. Petersburg. And my team finished second, so we are going to European Championship. And that's one thing my company Festo supports every time. And for me, it's just a great thing because not everybody has the opportunity to do something like that. And in general, I could say for apprenticeship or for me, is that I can see the productivity or the things that come out of my work. Because, for example, in the development department, I can say, oh, that little thing, that screw or that movement on the robot, that was my idea. And that's one thing that's really cool for me.
Thanks a lot. That's great. During my 5 years serving as a kind of volunteer here in the presidency, I learned that especially in the handicraft business, the employers send their trainees for a certain time abroad, like many students do during their studies. And I think that's a pretty nice or pretty good thing to do because you learn something beyond borders. And I think that broadened your mind, and that's something that is very good also for apprentices. Did you, beside your competition, you told us, is it the same in your company? Are you able to go for a certain time, perhaps 3 months or so, to another company abroad or in another European country?
So yeah, I think it's not 3 months, but like 6 to 8 weeks. We are able to go to a European country and work with the people, know the people, and it's the same company and they do the same job, but it's always different. And I think it's a really great experience. And also if you're kind of being alone and need to do your own stuff, that's also cool.
Yeah. Jordan, the same question to you. I mean, the US are so big, so you have a lot of companies in your own country. Are you able to join another company during your apprenticeship and see how it works in other companies?
So I don't know exactly if it's a thing that we can work with other companies in the US, but I do know that during our 3rd year after the first semester, we are sent to Austria to our parent company, for 6 to 8 weeks to work in our parent company in different departments and kind of see how it works just coming from the parent company from the US. And we obviously get to see the culture, meet the people, kind of see how operations are different, which is super nice. So it's very similar, but just not with other companies.
Oh, that's great. So you're also going abroad. I think that's a big opportunity for every young people. I think that is also my same mission or message. Get young people, but give them the opportunity to go to another state, to join another company during the apprenticeship to show how it works otherwise. And I think that's really a wonderful experience. So perhaps what I would like to ask, do you have any plans? What will you do after the apprenticeship is over, John?
I plan on going back to school to UNC Charlotte or University of North Carolina, Charlotte, because once again, it's still really close. I don't have to travel anywhere. I can continue working at Bloom as a mechatronics technician in our hinge assembly or in our tandem assembly. And I think the end goal would be to be a mechanical engineer in our engineering department.
Mm. And I believe that your apprenticeship is a very well preparation for going to university and do this engineering job. Great. Timo, the same question to you. Do you know what you will do after the apprenticeship is finished?
So my plans afterwards are that I work for about a year maybe to gain extra practical experience and to work really in one theme, because mechatronics is you can go in that direction or that direction to work here in one theme. And then I want to go to university to get an engineer, and for that Festus or my company has the opportunity to be a student employer at my to work a few hours per week in maybe the research and development department. Yeah, that are my plans.
Yeah, that's also good. Wonderful. And let me ask a last question. As I said before, that Jordan is a kind of ambassador for apprenticeship and vocational training. Can you is it for you a good thinking to go to high schools and tell other young students or pupils in the high school what it means to be a trainee in apprenticeship?
So I think it is a great thing, because for me personally at my school, I told before that my family and friends are were really helpful to finding my job, but also at school there were exactly some mechatronics and told about their job. We could ask questions, and that was also one big point or factor that I took this path here.
So people who are serving in this kind of business have been crucial for you for your decision to become an apprentice in mechatronics.
Yeah, for sure.
Thanks, Jordan. The same question to you. Have you ever been at your old high school and tell your young fellows how it is to be a trainee in the apprenticeship and to be a trainee in mechatronics? Did you share?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
So I did go back to my high school during my first year here at Bloom. I went back and I was able to speak with some of the students in the engineering program, the same program that I went through, and kind of speak about my first year here. And I know that 2 people from that same class that I spoke to actually ended up coming to our orientation, and one got in, which is really awesome. He's an amazing first year, and it was honestly so awesome that I was able to kind of inspire him to try it out and keep going with the same path as me. And then I was also able to speak with some middle school students at my old middle school about the same program, which is really awesome. I actually did that before I fully got into the apprenticeship program, because my work-based learning coordinator, Miss Susan Brackett, she really felt that I would be a good example, and I was already communicating with other apprenticeship coordinators with the companies that are in Apprenticeship 2000.
It's really great. So you have become a role model for other young people. That's really great. So I fear our time is over. I thank you both a lot. That was so interesting to talk to you. You are really great young people, and I'm so happy that you are doing this. I think it's really very important for our business in our countries, that we have so inspiring young people, wise young people who are really love what they are doing and going on with their learning and doing. So thank you a lot. Dankeschön.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you both, Jordan and Timo. That was really wonderful. And at this time, I think we're going to welcome our panelists. Hello.
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 Yeah.
Hello, Mrs. Budenbender.
Hi.
Guten Abend aus Berlin. Good evening from Berlin.
Hi.
Excellent. So at this point, we're going to transition to our panel conversation. And I always like to say that it's hard to follow apprentices because they're so amazing and so interesting, but we'll do our very best to have an equally amazing and interesting conversation right now. So I'm going to hand it over to Miriam Farnbauer to ask the first question of our panelists. And I would encourage our audience out there to start asking questions and to really, you know, as ideas inspire you throughout the conversation, please put your questions and comments in the Q&A box.
Yeah. So good to have you all on here. This question goes to everyone. What would you say are the advantages of the apprenticeship system in your country?
Okay, should I start? Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. What I experienced myself is, if you're doing an apprenticeship program, you have to fit in a very early age in a company, in a new environment, and you learn a lot how to behave in a certain environment, and you are learning a lot. From my perspective, the most of our apprenticeship programs are very good. They provide really a profound education, and it's something I worship a lot, because a lot of young people do not know, that's also my experience, what really to become in later in life. And from my perspective, to do an apprenticeship program is a good start. And you know, everyone knows we have to do lifelong learning, and this is really a good start. And we have Miriam showed it in your panel. We have 324 apprenticeship programs, but we have more than 40,000 studies, you know. And you know, it's doing an apprenticeship means to have a very concentrated education. Within 3 years, you get know a lot, and you are able to work in many companies in the same department, and you can go further. So I think that's a big advantage in our country. And pick the people who don't know really what they really want to become, and have the chance to pick up our precious.
I would love to jump in if there's an opportunity. Hi, everyone. Natalie Palugi, Secretary of Labor for the state of California, and very happy to be here with all of the panelists. You know, in the US, it's a little more challenging to talk about the advantages, because many of us in this business of workforce development understand that we have a long way to go to really create a systematic approach to how our youth enters apprenticeship programs and how our employers link to those programs. However, I can speak for California. Here, the governor understands the value, the incredible value of apprenticeship, both as a tool to recruit talent, to break some of the inequities that our focus on higher education over the last several decades has ended up creating in the workplace. And also, just the value of lifelong learning and increased earnings. And so we have a very ambitious goal here at the state that was set by our governor. By 2029, we want to have reached 500,000 apprenticeships served, apprentices served through an apprenticeship program. I will say that we have a lot of work to do, and we are so grateful to be here today and to be hearing from the German example and what we can implement here. One, I think there is an advantage if we were able to create the right balance between a more systematic approach to apprenticeship and the flexibility that we currently have in our US system. I think that flexibility allows the entire workforce system to adapt quicker to economic changes. And so, that I would say that the flexibility is an advantage, but it has to be balanced with a systematic approach, which we lack. We more centralized planning and coordination. So, if there is one advantage, I think flexibility might be one of them if we can tap into that flexibility properly.
Yeah, that's true.
If I could jump in here, definitely honor First Lady Budenbender and Secretary Bellucci to be on this panel. When we think about advantages, I think about it in two different ways. As a practitioner, as a former apprentice myself, as First Lady Budenbender spoke about, as being an apprentice and then moving into a role of State Director of Apprenticeship and now working on the national stage for the Innovation Hub with JFF, I think there's two distinct advantages that we can look at for employers as well as that we can look at for people. I'll start with the employers. As we see here in America, which I'm assuming Germany is probably in pretty close to the same scenario we are, where there are more people retiring every day than entering into the workforce. We think about the advantages that are there for employers to really start to slow what we call in America the brain drain, or the information drain that leaves a company when somebody retires. Apprenticeship gives employers the ability to bring in, whether they're youth, here in America, starting at 16, 17, 18, or in their 20s, bring them in and start to gather some of that information before the folks retire. It also helps employers. I've always said apprenticeship helps employers stay in tune with the competition. Here in America, I can just speak kind of here in Wisconsin as we think about when they attend related instruction, in other places across the country, they're attending related instruction with apprentices from other companies that will be sharing the technology that they're doing, maybe not, things that are proprietary, but they'll be sharing information, and that continues to help employers stay on the cutting edge as we compete, locally, nationally, and at times globally. Now, on the other end, there's a huge advantage for people as well. I'm a huge proponent of apprenticeship. I feel like there is no other workforce program in the nation as it's, that is remotely close to the registered apprenticeship system, as we talk about bringing in individuals who can walk in the door of an employer with zero skill and just have a whole lot of want to, and they walk out as a skilled worker after their apprenticeship. There's no other workforce program that it's its rival in America. And as I've studied Germany as well, same thing, there is no other rival. So I think when we look at advantages, I love, as you talked about, First Lady and Secretary, those advantages definitely at the higher level. And we start to work down and think about those employers, and at the people level, apprenticeship is just a great opportunity. We always say it's a pathway to the middle class. I challenge that and change it to say it's a pathway to the middle class, but it's also that next step up as you want to continue to grow. As we heard our fantastic apprentice Jordan talk about, going back to school, and Timo talking about moving up within the company, you do that with apprenticeship, with the ability to gain that knowledge.
Yeah, wow, what interesting views and perspectives, I have to say, and thanks for having me on that panel. What I like about the German dual system, or also the Austrian and Switzerland system, is that really gives you a perspective. and it's attractive to face the challenges worldwide, like sustainability, digitization, automatization, etc. The downturn is also, I think, the global challenges is that the parents are not encouraging their kids to enter an apprenticeship. I have it here myself, to convince young people to enter the labor market as soon as possible, and then get educated, get formed by the in-company trainers and also the teachers. We have a dire need of teachers. We have 81,000 teachers not being here at the German labor market. And we have rivalries, buyouts throughout Germany. And we have the 324 professions, but our labor market infrastructure only consults on 30. So there is a huge mismatch on how the employers, they do not know how to find the kids, and the kids do not know how to find their apprenticeship program. And so if you have a good labor information service and highly motivated former apprentices like our two colleagues here, really fantastic young people, they should have access to schools. In Germany, not everybody has access to schools because they say, we have our curriculum, we have no time. But they need to have time in order to encourage and motivate people, especially in the post-COVID times, or now hopefully not coming up war times, to get the confidence that there is a perspective within the society, no matter where you're from, with a huge permeability of the system.
Thank you so much for that. It's really terrific perspectives on all of this. So I'm going to ask, oh, sure, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I would like to add one thing. Thank you very much, Dr. Kress. You said everything. What I experienced when my husband and me, we visited a big school here in Berlin. It's a vocational training school. And what I learned is that apprenticeship is the first chance and the second chance, because there have been a lot of young people who first went to university and they experienced that is not the right way for me for going in a job. And they went to a vocational training school and they picked up an apprenticeship that really worked for them. And so I think that's also a very good thing. You can in every age, in nearly every age, you can join an apprenticeship, and that is also a great thing. And I think that could be the same in the US. I think people at every age are able to go to a vocational training school and find the career. Thanks.
Excellent point. I think what we see here in the US is that it's often the second chance for a lot of individuals here, because they'll often go to the college pathway first, and then for whatever reason, it might not work out. So apprenticeship is a great alternative and something that people, as we showed with the ages, come to in their late 20s and pursue. So I'm gonna my next question is consistent with something that Secretary Palugiai raised, which is, thinking about your own country, either Germany or the US, what lessons can we borrow from other countries, from the other country, to build a stronger system? And Secretary Palugiai, do you want to expand upon your?
Yes, I wanted to jump in earlier too, but I'm trying to, contain all of my enthusiasm. So building on what we were just talking about. So I think there's a couple of things that for me are important learnings, and we've already been thinking about, but they're reinforced through this discussion. The first is that our apprenticeship program is a second chance for many individuals that went to college, maybe worked, have not found their path, and somehow stumble across an apprenticeship program, okay? Or it could be an individual who came out of high school and worked for many years, and then again, somehow stumble across an apprenticeship program. And so I want to sort of emphasize these two things. One, we are very cognizant that we need to build a much closer link with what we call our K to 12 educational system and the apprenticeship infrastructure. That link today does not exist in a systemic way. And what we need is young people coming out of high school understanding that apprenticeship is a pathway that is not widely understood by young people exiting high school today. And so that's very important. So there's an opportunity lost there. And so we have the second chance, but we haven't built out the first chance, as Mrs. Budenbender was explaining. We really have not built that out well enough yet. The second thing that I think is very important is just more investment by government, whether it's a state government such as California, the federal government, more investment so that we can create a sustainable ecosystem of those intermediaries that are trying to gather the requirements from their local sectors and markets and trying to build out these programs. So they sit at the middle of the employer and the actual apprentice. There's a lot of, in our state, startup money, but there's not a lot of sustainability. We have not figured that piece out for the non-building trades and fire trades. For the building trades and fire trades, where the unions have played such a strong role that they have created a system that works very well. But for the other side of the house, we have not. And so more investment and more thought. And the third thing I would say is we just need to do a better job of marketing. We in the US, all of us here understand the value of apprenticeship. We've met with employers who value it. I think about, Jordan and Timo, like all of the apprentices I've met, these opportunities have been life-changing. And I will say that again, life-changing in an economic structure that is challenging here in the US, but we don't market it well. We don't talk about the return on investment for employers. We don't really capitalize on the subsidies that the government does give employers who participate in these programs. So we have a long ways to go in just getting that word out and making that connection with our primary school system.
Can I jump in there, Diana? Because I think just to piggyback off the secretary, the word second chance, it's really interesting here in America that apprenticeship is looked at as less than college. And when you're in high school, if you go into any type of vocational, it means that you are not smart enough to go to college. So as the secretary mentioned, as we talk about marketing, there's a tremendous opportunity here in America for us to change the way we look at apprenticeship. I always think about, we celebrate kids when they go to the military, when they sign scholarships, when they sign they're going to college. But when they're graduating high school and they're signing an apprenticeship contract to go into the workforce, we look at it like, oh, well, but that's something to celebrate, right? Going into an apprenticeship, going into the workforce at 18, how many of us enter the workforce at 18? That is a very responsible decision to make, right? So we don't celebrate it enough. The other part of it is when I was in Germany 2 years ago and was there for a work study and looked at it, I love how the apprenticeship is built into society. I can't imagine, I said this when we came back from the trip, I couldn't imagine sitting down with my fourth graders teachers and my son, I have an 11-year-old, my youngest son, and saying, all right, son, we've decided you're going into vocational or you're going to university, right? I was like, I couldn't even imagine doing that. And to think of how it's woven into the fabric of Germany, there is tremendous value for that we are missing here in America. Now, as I've said before, I can't imagine it. I couldn't imagine telling any parent of a fourth grader that, hey, we're going to decide what the future looks like for your son or daughter, right? Here in America. And that's one thing I valued there was that conversation and the pathway then that was created for that student. And it was they're on equal playing field. And I love that. I love that about Germany. I love here in America that when we talk about the ability to have apprenticeship programs in almost anything, as long as it fits in the bill of what USDOL's requirements are of apprenticeship program, like that allows us to create opportunities where many times folks wouldn't see how an apprenticeship fits. And the marketing piece, I'm going to go back to that as I wrap up my comment. The marketing piece, everyone thinks that apprenticeship in the United States of America, I don't know how it is in Germany, but everyone thinks that apprenticeship in the United States of America is in construction or manufacturing. And that's it. They don't think that there can be apprenticeship in any other occupation or any other sector. So we do have a lot of work to do to change that narrative and make people see apprenticeship in a much different light.
Maybe I can add that from the international vocational education consultancy that we do. Secretary, you were talking about the time frame that you set yourself. We advised our colleagues in Slovak Republic, and they had so much pressure from the industry, from companies in machinery, that they had to do something. And it took them 1.5 years to have a throughout systematic approach with the law, just adding the dual option, and also getting the schools on their side, because the financing of the schools is set as per capita. And so the schools actually lost on opening up apprenticeship classes. I mean, not going too much into detail, but it's not rocket science, but there are so many people building satellites, for example, the mechatronics, etc. Also, like in Silicon Valley, they could use a lot of apprentices. It doesn't have to be the academic career, the non-academic career, and earning money. We haven't talked about that a bricklayer here earns first year 1,000 euros. Or now we have our 12 euro average per hour salary that you have to pay. And also the wages, the apprentices, they are rising. And then you have young persons paying into your social funding, so it's an asset as well. And so you have this return of investment. What I do not understand about the states and the companies, a lot of companies, why they do not see the investment. Why do they doubt that? I still haven't understood that, because it's just a matter of simple calculation. And that there you have your apprentice. And if you recruit somebody from the market here, it costs you 8,000 euros. And you do not know who you are getting.
So that is a wonderful point. I think that apprenticeship faces a bit of an uphill battle here, because the college system and the university continuing education system has been so built up and invested in. And the narrative about, the value of going to college and university has now permeated, and it's been socialized as fact. And so apprenticeship is battling against this notion that only college students are prepared to enter a workforce. So we have a lot of work to do. It goes back to the socialization, how we do that. In many states in the United States, the workforce system is very decentralized, and it is money comes from the federal government to the states, and then the states spread that money across the local governments and areas. And those local workforce development boards, and we interact with them at the state level, we need to do a better job with them to start breaking this narrative, to start working with the employers in their regions, as well as the high schools and K through 12, to start pushing this new narrative that not everyone wants to go to university, not everyone can afford to go to university, and so and that there is a return on investment, both in terms of retention and there's been studies about ROI and what that actually looks like. It's even higher with states that subsidize training dollars. So I think we have a very big task ahead of us to start from the state working with our locals to break this narrative with both the employers and to start making better connections with the high schools as well. But it's a very good point. And it's because of this narrative. It's not because of the fact behind the return on investment. It's because what we've been programmed to believe for generations and generations.
Yes, but being honest, we have in Germany also a tendency or a strong tendency to worship more the education at the university. In former times, only 20 to a quarter of the young people who finished the school went to university. Nowadays, it's 45%. We still have a high number of young people who join apprenticeship, but it's getting lower and lower because of the narrative you told us. I think we have the same, nearly the same in Germany, and the companies try to invent, Dr. Kress knew it, I think, better than me, try to invent new kinds of apprenticeship, doing a doing both apprenticeship and studies. That is really tough for the people, for the young people. But when my husband and me, when we visited certain companies, young people are very engaged in this, and that's really also a good way to become or to get a really good career. But we have to catch the parents to tell them apprenticeship
That's
is
a great
still
point.
That's really important. Being honest, the most of the parents of my age, also and older, they knew or know what the worth of apprenticeship. But it's also a task for us to change the tendency. That's I faced in Germany.
I will just say that in California, I just looked up the data quickly. 63% of public high school 11th graders enroll in higher education in the next year. It is very much, biased our system towards higher education, but imagine what a dual program could do.
Yeah.
Too.
Well, thank you so much on all your insights around awareness of apprenticeship and the challenges that employers face and the narrative, as you pointed out, Secretary Palucci. Now, another question that we would have is, how do apprenticeship help improve diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts in your country?
I guess I could jump in there as kind of the, as a director for the National Innovation Hub for Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, Accessibility in Registered Apprenticeship. These are the challenges that we are looking at and taking them head on. When we think about apprenticeship and the opportunities that it offers, as I said in my first statement, there isn't a workforce program that rivals apprenticeship's ability, as I've always said, to eradicate poverty. Right? It is the ability for individuals to come in with no skill and to walk out as a skilled worker. And I think that helps employers as well as they're doing their recruitment. Many times, to the Secretary's point, to the First Lady's point, as well as Dr. Kress, we think about apprenticeship and we think about the fact that it competes, unfortunately, competes with the college system. For individuals from underserved communities, many times they already know by their 9th and 10th grade school year that they are not going to be able to go to college. Maybe it's not because they're not smart enough to go, but they know that there's inherently challenges with them getting to college. First starting off with being able to afford it, and many other opportunities that they may not be able to be able to access for them. So I think for employers looking at that and saying, how do I capture those individuals who've made a conscious decision that college right after high school is not what I want to do, but I want to go into the workforce and eventually I may want to go into college. So when we think about how we can, how apprenticeships can help improve that, I think that when you're showing somebody a career pathway, You're showing someone from an underserved community a career pathway to this certain level of, you're going to start here and you're going to get here. And also at the same time, here in America, we have the progressive wage scale, which is a requirement, which means those from underserved communities know that from day one, when I start this apprenticeship, I'm making X amount of dollars, and every 6 months or every certain hours or every year, this is my next wage I'm going to earn. That is a way for apprenticeship to really focus and really wrap its arm around the fact of that is a big draw for people from underserved communities, and how they can get folks in that door and to have something that's structured. You know, when you're from an underserved community, I could speak personally, you know, you walk in and you're hoping for a raise. You hope you do good enough this year so that when the reviews come up, you get a raise. But in apprenticeship, as long as you're an active apprentice and you're doing the things that need to be done, you know exactly what your raise will be. So I think focusing on some of those things really help, or apprenticeship the system wrapping its arms around some of those things, such as the career pathway, showing the wages, that does help improve that, bringing in those folks from underserved communities.
I might even just simplify a little what Joshua said. You know, if our higher education system perpetuates inequities, and our employers are recruiting from higher education, their pipelines are not going to be diverse, right? If we can somehow break that and have employers think about apprenticeships, young apprenticeships who are not college or community college graduates, but instead coming out of the high school, then we sort of break that, that model that perpetuates a lack of diversity in our university system, right? Because it's related, it's socioeconomic, it's related to your status economically. And it also, yeah, so we break down sort of that pipeline, which is not very equitable today.
Can I just really quick to throw it to Germany too? What I loved when I learned there is, back, I don't know how long ago it was, but our folks that we were there visiting from the DGB, you know, they talked to us about the investment that Germany made in folks who immigrate to Germany. And that is something here that I've looked at and said, how come in America, we have all of these job openings? We have tremendous amount of job openings. We have individuals who are immigrating to our country, but there's one thing that we're missing, in my opinion, there's one thing we're missing, which is allowing those folks who immigrate to our country to learn English as a second language, or to engage them in learning English as a second language so that they're comfortable working alongside folks who only speak English, right? Instead of looking at as a deterrent or looking at as a negative, we need to find a way to engage and help those folks who want to come to our country and help them get engaged. I love how Germany did. And I learned that going to the shops and everybody spoke German or their native language, but they spoke German first. And that's when I got educated about the investment the German government made in teaching individuals who immigrate to the country the German language so they can enter the workforce. That is something, when we talk about a lesson to learn, that is something I feel is a tremendous lesson the United States of America could learn, is how we can engage and get individuals in, because you're going to be more comfortable if you can even remotely speak some of the language that you're working, that the person, your journey worker or fellow apprentices are speaking.
And
yeah, thanks a lot. That's really nice to hear. But I think we can do better. In 2015, a lot of young immigrants came to Germany, and what was good was that especially small business employers of small business or middle-sized business gave a lot of energy in engaging in bring the young refugees into apprenticeship, do the schoolwork with them together. There was a highly personal impact. And of course, what you said is purely right. Speaking the language is the first step to come into a society and have a career and have a good life. That's the first step. And a lot of dual education schools founded classes and try to educate the young refugees in our language. And what I learned is, but what worked very good when the people are in apprenticeship, they have extra classes for learning German. That's the most important thing we can do. And then I think you have success. But there's still a long way to go. But you're purely right. Learn the language is the most important thing you can do, and support people in this perspective. That's so important.
I just want to quickly add some aspects. It is when to start this career guidance, like starting from 5th grade would be good, even earlier, like in school, to have more practical classes, more project work. And here we have these gymnasiums, and they're a bit stuck up and said, no, we don't, we only prepare for university. We do not need this. Same question everywhere. Everybody know your higher education, but practical, cross-cutting through all subjects, and then enable young people to make a decision. Because there's so much information. I want to be a YouTuber. I want to be an influencer. I want to be like Elon Musk. Yeah, but everybody needed to work to get there. But there is a great chance to have this practical work, earn money, grow as an adult, and then finish your vocational education at the age of 19, being fully trained, and then maybe travel, maybe do something else, or enter university. It's actually a perfect system, but there's a big but. Our young women, they do not enter technical or scientific profession, non-academic professions. There is some mechanisms like the girls stay for the more technical STEM subjects. There is the boys stay for the more social professions, but the fruits are not yet there. They have to grow into that. And so again, the parents, the teachers, the schools have to enable internships, get more relations to the business world, and found a startup scene. We have young startups, and there is this work that needs to be done, like in the office, and they do not know how to recruit young people for that. They like interns, and the interns are not well paid. And if they get another job offer, they will go away. So what I like about America, the system, is really the young leaders, community leaders. I think it would be good to have them here and not let the schools or any institutions do the thing, but have this eye-to-eye level, like understanding. And I had the chance to meet some of the young community leaders when a delegation was in Germany. And I think this is what is lacking, because young people, everybody needs guidance, but cool guidance, not like this parental guidance. And so that I really like to look into more how this mechanism really works. Thank you.
Well, thank you, everyone. It is such a great discussion, and I think we could continue on and on and on for hours. We have so many questions in the Q&A box, and I already apologize that we cannot get to all of them. But we tried to pick some, so let's get started. Someone in the audience asked, could you speak to the soft skills provided by apprenticeship programs? Job success requires both technical skills and the social skills, which the lay public needs to see exist in programs. So if you could speak on that matter, that would be great.
So I mean, I can jump in for one moment. I think there's a recognition, in California, most of our apprenticeships are in the building and fire trades. And we are looking at ways to expand much more significantly outside of this. But when I think about my visits to these apprenticeship programs, they have recognized the importance of building into the curriculums in partnership with the unions, who are, you know, sort of the sponsors of a lot of the training, soft skills. One of the things that really impressed me was that one of our trades was building in financial literacy and financial planning into their curriculums, because construction here is, of course, in many countries, is very cyclical. And these apprentices often, or journeymen, they do not have work all year long. And so, you know, they were observing that while they, you know, these apprentices get paid very well, they weren't saving, and they were often in economic situations that you would never want for, you know, your union member or your employee. And so that was, you know, there's a lot of this being built in into the curriculums, even in very technical areas like the building trades.
So if I understand, sorry, if I understood the question right, there was a question, what kind of soft skills do I need in my apprenticeship? So I require, to my experience, when I was 16, I joined this company, and I also went, like Timo explained, to all the departments of the company. And in this company, in some departments, the people are wonderful, creative, nice, and so, and in some other departments, the people are not that nice. You have to fight to have your stand, and you are in a young age, and the people around you are much older. And so you learn how to act, you learn how to find friends, and to find people who support you. And so I joined the trade union when I was 17, and there I find also a lot of friends, and I broadened my experience and my skills. And so beyond all this, the skills I have to learn when I want to become I want to finish my apprenticeship, this have been to me so important to know how to act, to know how to behave in a way that I can have my point, but be not fired or so, you know. That's something you have to learn, and this is that is one of the most important soft skills I learned, how to act and to behave, to have my point and go through in a proper way, and to find friends. That was very important to me. That have been the most important soft skills I learned.
Just very briefly, like critical thinking, communication, as Mrs. explained, conflict resolution and problem solving. This is key. All the other professional skills you add on the go as you grow in your profession, but all the other things, as we are in a pro-consumer or prosumer society with automatization, individualization of products and service provision, you need these people. You need people who are ready to follow decisions, but also understand why this decision is made, and then decide for yourself in your own competence. But the competence-based education is very, very difficult. And even here in Germany, specialists are still struggling how to rate a competence. What is the indicator for that? So this is an ongoing process, but we need this critical thinking and openness and international thinking young workforce.
Another question we have is, what impact is technology having on apprenticeship programs in Germany and the US?
You know, to the point, you know, here in the United States, I think technology is actually helping advance the apprenticeship. When we talk about marketing and talk about how we can get engaged the youth, technology is one of those things where I always like to think that, you know, as we talk about, like, as parents, you know, not the cool guidance, but I think technology is allowing there to be a bridge built between the journey workers and those apprentices coming in. It's also allowing for things to happen a lot faster when you're in the apprenticeship, which means you have access now. You're able to learn more about, if you're in manufacturing, you're able to learn more about the machines. You're able to communicate better, right? I've heard some people who, as they've engaged, I've heard employers here, as they engage and try to engage with the youth, they think about how they can keep those youth with their fingers, right? They're just playing video games or on their phone. So to give that child, or not child, but give that youth and who's coming into our apprenticeship program that same tactile mentality, is that they're giving them computers to work on the machines, or they're giving them phones that are diagnosing problems with machines, or some of the, as we think about mechatronics, they're getting engaged in building those robots. And I think that's how technology has helped really advance. You're also seeing it out in the construction field. I mean, when I was a construction laborer, we had a robot it was a GPS, GPS set. So you have that mentality to how engaged. I mean, that's just a very superficial way that I think technology is helping apprenticeship programs advance. But that's just one I've seen here.
Another question from the audience is, apprenticeships are commonly perceived in US as being for the hard trades. How do we change this perception?
So I got some real brief.
Yeah. Go ahead, Josh, if you want to. Yeah.
Real brief. I've always said, and this is one of the things that I talk about, we have to get rid of the word apprenticeship. When you come out here, it's going to be hard work. If you tell me at 44 years old that something's going to be hard, I'm probably not going to want to do it. I'm just saying. Now, if I change it, marketing, right? It's the marketing. There's pride in this. There's joy when you finish. But yes, it has been historically thought about as in construction, where you're going to be working really hard. But now, we're looking at these occupational areas, IT, finance, right? What does hard mean in those industries, right? I don't see you're going to be building roads in finance, but it's going to be challenging. There's going to be, you have to figure out, whatever calculations, or in IT, you have to figure out what database, so on and so forth. I honestly don't know those occupations. I'm just guessing, but I know that from thinking about it in that way, we have to move away from thinking that things are hard and start to change the narrative of challenging and prideful. Sorry, I just had to jump in and say that, Secretary.
No, not a problem. Of course, no, great. I love all of this conversation is wonderful. I was just going to add that this is something we are facing here in California, how to expand outside of the trades, right? How do we get into tech and healthcare and teaching and all of these other professions, viticulture. I mean, there is so much that could be, fall under an apprenticeship. I think there are very clear policy levers that we have to put in place to incentivize the growth of apprenticeships in the non-trades. And there's also investment that has to be made to really develop this ecosystem of intermediaries, which on the trade side are, we're very lucky here in California. We have a very strong trade union, but on the non-trade side, it's not only unions that play a role. There's other community organizations, not-for-profits, and those intermediaries are not finding sustainable, a sustainable financial model to sustain these programs that they're trying to stand up. And that is where, as government, we have to come in and intervene, think about policy levers and investment.
A good follow-up question to this, which is directed to Germany, is: do you have an industry breakdown of apprenticeships in the US versus Germany? Are most apprenticeships in the building trades or engineering industries?
In the US, I would strongly predict that it is in the building trades.
Yeah, and the question is for Germany, how it is there. I think that was supposed to be the comparison. Yeah.
We have 80 professions in the crafts, sector of crafts, which is underestimated, like textiles made in Germany. It's still a niche, but we're talking about smart textiles and individual textiles. The same is shoemaker, the same orthopedic mechanic. coming in, how to get more girls into that. I can help somebody if I build a good a robot for taking care of somebody. So there, what we have is we're talking about professions also that do not exist yet. The majority, of course, is in machinery, tool making, etc. It is in construction. But like our here in Berlin, the average age of a construction worker is 45. And there are hardly any coming into these hard professions. But there is a lot of innovation helping with exoskeletons in order that people have some things to help with the lifting, with the labor security, etc. So this is also a place for innovation. The same for laboratory work. We hadn't fought COVID without laboratory workers. This is non-academic. And to promote this, if we're like this promotion or guidance, career guidance, this is really key. And if the industry doesn't see the necessity to train somebody, then do not. Then your competitor does it for you, not for you, against you, actually. Sorry.
Well, again, we are at time here. Unfortunately, we have so many more questions. And again, we would love to continue this dialogue. But I want to thank all the panelists here. And before we finish this webinar, Mrs. Büdenbender, I want to give it up to you again. If you have any final remarks you want to share, then please do so.
Yes, thanks a lot, Miriam. I worshipped a lot to talk to you and to have this experience. I think the future of our societies depends on how we are able to get our young people in a proper education, and especially to get a lot of young people into apprenticeship, because we need it. We need it to empower our industry and our working market. So, and I think it's really in the interest of our young people to have this kind of apprenticeship. It gives a lot of chances for young people who do not know how to go further, for young people who face that university is not the right place to be, and for young people who are really worship to work with their hands and with their minds. And I think that's to bring together, that empowers our society. So I thank you a lot for giving me the opportunity to talk to you and this wonderful people, Jordan and Timo. And so I worship it a lot. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Well, again, thank you everyone for your very great insights, and everyone in the audience for being here. Thank you, Jordan and Timo, again, and to more discussions in the future. Thank you.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.